Okay, we're live. Welcome to Talking Talent. I'm Jay Rusden. We're here live once a month, or normally once a month. We've skipped a couple months here, but we're still keeping it going strong. Here live for all of the employer brand enthusiasts and talent acquisition folks out there, talking about all things EB programs, content strategies. So great to have you here. Quick welcome to Bree, our co-host. Bree, what's going on? You're taking over my LinkedIn these days. You're everywhere.
It's manic lately. From organising meetups to debates to being on quite a few podcasts or webinars. But then work-wise, things are really picking up in the last few months. I think whilst it's been a slow start to the financial year, I think things are going well now.
Yeah, nice. And we've got a bit of a shout out for one of your upcoming activities in a minute. And of course, a really warm welcome to our guest for today, live from Texas, Rachel Kennedy. It's really great to have you on.
Thank you. Super excited to be here with you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
It's good. And look, when we caught up to talk about having you on the session, I said to you, we've covered so much ground in a lot of different ways on the program this year. And honestly, couldn't think of having a better guest on to finish up the season of the year and just really diving into this content strategy topic that's right in your sweet spot. So yeah, excited to get into this conversation. A few announcements and updates before we get into the discussion. So the first one is from a Video My Job update. Who's a Canva fan? If whoever's using Canva, I know, yep, both of you good. I thought so. Yeah, look, whenever we have these conversations, there's a lot of people that are using Canva, especially for creating content within employer branding and job ads and things like that. So yeah, we're really excited. We're going to launch an integration with Video My Job into Canva. So what that means is all of the employee generated video content, video job ads, employee stories will be accessible directly into Canva. So you can go and do all the good things, get all those extra graphics and stuff and create some killer social content off the back of that. So if that's something you're interested in, just drop a comment with Canva on the live feed and we'll get in touch to give you some more info. Another one we've got from our friends again at TQ Solutions. So Ruby Gia, I think it's pronounced, from over at TQ, is going to be presenting a really great masterclass on how to bring your personas to life at the upcoming EB Stars Festival on the 28th and 29th. So we're going to drop a link to that one. I think it's a virtual event. I think some of the time zones are more on the Europe side of things as well, but we'll drop a link to that one as well. So Brie, I think you've got, like I said, you've got a call out for some of your activity as well.
Yes, very local. But for all those in Sydney, whether it be there visiting Sydney for the Smart Recruiters event next Monday, make sure, or locals obviously, make sure you join us at Sydney Rec Meetup. Great debate on the future of TA is AI. Should be fun. It may turn into the comedy roast of the year with the people we've got on the debating team. But also for those who we don't see there, I'm pumped to see all the TA employer brand experts in the country at ATC this month. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, nice one. I think AI is such a good topic for debate, right? I think it'll be a good one.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Comments and questions. Drop your thoughts on the topics or your contribution along the way. And of course, any questions you got for Rachel or Brie as our kind of resident EB expert. But let's jump into it. Rachel, just as a bit of an intro for those who don't know you, I'd love to hear a bit more about your background and how and why you made that pivot over to really focusing on EB content and creating content strategies. And yeah, what's the inspiration behind the Southern Lighthouse?
Yeah, thank you so much. I am a recovering recruiter. So I was in-house at a construction company and then the Container Store, which is a retail company that sells expensive empty boxes in the US. And so have always been a recruiter. I fell in love with this idea of attracting talent, but using the stories that you already have. I didn't know that was called employer branding at the time, but I started writing blogs. I started our LinkedIn account. I started our Twitter handle. I just started talking to our existing employees and sharing their stories, asking, why do you work here? There's a million other choices of retailers. Why did you choose this one? So I didn't know it, but that was content. It's all of the things we put out that speak to our brand. And so I loved working at this intersection of marketing and recruiting. I got furloughed in the pandemic, not a lot of need for recruiters, especially in retail in 2020. And so it really was a great pause for me. Like I think a lot of people experienced. I had a hard conversation with my husband of just saying like, there's no job out there that I want. And I wonder if there's a way I can start my own company and do this for myself. And he's like, if you don't try, you won't know. So let's do it. So Southern Lighthouse was born in June of 2020. I had never planned to be a business owner. I was super happy in-house with a salary and a 401k and the stability of that. But it's been a wonderful 3.5 years, and I haven't looked back. This phrase had always inspired me: be a ladder to help someone up, be a lighthouse to help someone through, or be a lifeboat to help someone out. And so I just loved the inspirational message with that. So I thought if I ever started a company, Lighthouse Consulting would probably be it. Of course, that was taken. So I live in Texas. So the Southern aspect of Southern Lighthouse came to be the name. And so my business is really focused on employer brand content creation. Again, there's brilliant people, like Bree and strategists out there who kind of develop the EVP and the strategy of who we are. And I love to partner with people like Bree and then take that message and activate it, put it out into the world so that we can shine a light on our own people and our own stories, but also that I can be a light to kind of help those companies in a way that develops their marketing and messaging to find great candidates. So that is the story of this Lighthouse.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, congrats on 3 years, right? Did you celebrate?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I might throw to you, Bree, to kick off the first topic.
Absolutely. In chatting with you, obviously, for the last few years, Rachel, but more recently, I guess we've heard you describe content not as a thing that you do, but more as a mindset shift in how companies need to go about attracting talent and really growing and changing their approach. I know you work with a lot of clients and you're very much across what's happening and what's hot in the US market. What would you say is the status quo, and what do you see as the case for change towards this, I guess, different and new mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think of content as anything the light touches in terms of what we're putting out, what we're saying about the company. So there's a lot of different touch points. I think of your employer brand is like a bird's nest, and it's full of sticks and twigs and feathers and sometimes cigarette butts. Anything a candidate can pick up and assimilate about your company, that kind of forms the idea of content about your company, what it feels like to work there. They're going to think about a friend who used to work there. They're going to maybe get your email. They're going to check out your website. They're going to check you out on social media. All those little sticks and twigs, they kind of push together. And that creates their content, the content in their mind about what it's like to work for your company. So what I'm seeing is kind of baseline, companies will put out a job description. Hey, come work for us. Come work for us. Come work for us. That's pretty much it. And I think what companies have realized is that's not enough. That's not enough to build that bird's nest of something compelling to drive a candidate to take action in a market like this, where we have 2 job openings for every 1 job seeker or less. It's so competitive. Just posting a job isn't enough. And so we need to develop more of a content mindset so that we can put out more beautiful sticks so that these little birds can put their nests together and ultimately drive them to take action and show interest in our company, follow us, engage with us, and ultimately apply with us. So what I think I see is what a lot of companies historically have done just isn't working. It's just not enough to post a job. We have to share a lot more about our culture, our benefits, and we have to lead with that candidate-centric mindset. I always repeat this John F. Kennedy quote: ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Similarly, ask not what your candidate can do for you, share what you can do for your candidate. So even in your job description and your job ads, typically we write, we need 8 years of experience. We need an MBA. We need someone to work on site for 40 hours a week. Well, let's shift that around and say we offer telecommuting benefits. We offer a 401k match. We offer a great culture of growth and development. So just shifting to this candidate-centric mindset, because this company-first mindset isn't enough. It's not working. So that's kind of where I feel like the importance of developing a content mindset comes in.
And Rachel, where would you say, like within that, describing that difference in mindset, where would you say kind of the
I think
company
we've lost Bree,
execs
but
and
hopefully, hopefully that all makes sense.
that's all right. It's just a slight delay. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, where would you say, like describing that mindset, a really great analogy, like describing that mindset shift, where would you describe from your experience where kind of the execs and stakeholders across the business are at in understanding that particular shift in approach? Like what's the current understanding across that kind of group from your view?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients are small, medium, growing businesses. They are at the point where they have a pain point of like, oh my gosh, we desperately need mechanical engineers and we can't find them or we can't attract them. What else can we do? So when customers come to me, I feel this pain point of like, people don't know us or what we have done isn't working. So that's where I partner with them and really kind of develop their content strategy of like, all right, well, here's where we're at and here's where we want to go. So let's make a plan in order to get there. And, in terms of stakeholders, I think this is the eternal employer brand question, right? Like, where should employer brand live? Is this a comms job? Is this a recruiting job? Is this a marketing job? Sometimes I will have a partner who is marketing. Sometimes I'm partnering with recruiting. At the end of the day, everybody needs to be working together, but every project needs a champion. And so regardless of whether that champion sits in internal comms, sits in recruiting, sits in HR, as long as there is someone who is really passionate about developing this content mindset, developing a better employee experience and candidate experience, I'm all for it. So sometimes I'll partner even with the CEO of a smaller firm that says we want to do something different, but we don't know how. That's where I like to come in and partner with them as that champion and then help develop the content from there.
Yeah, nice. And then like I really like what you were describing before about the really specific difference on a job ad. How does that change when you're thinking more content? What can we offer? How can we add value to the audience? I'd love to hear you just go like a bit more deeper on the candidate perspective on that. Like what is the outside of job ads as well? Like what kind of content matters from a talent and candidate perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm so excited about all of these questions. So in marketing, I mean, we all know we're in marketing, like we think about these marketing funnels. And so, if you're buying a new phone, we're marketing a new phone, we need tons of interest at the top. And then as you go down, you learn more about your options. And then at the end, you make a purchasing decision and decide on the phone that you want. Well, I think it's the same in talent acquisition. Every opportunity has we love lots of interest at the top. As people funnel down, they fall out or we cycle them out. And then ultimately they make the decision to come work at our company and we make the decision to hire them. So what I see a lot when I think about a content marketing funnel is there's a ton of bottom of the funnel content. Hey, go apply. We're hiring now. Come on. But I think what a lot of recruitment marketers miss is the middle and the top of the funnel. So we've totally forgotten that we can opt people in at the top who can follow our company LinkedIn page, who can read our blog, who may come to our career site, or maybe they're even in the middle. They've opted into our talent community and we haven't sent them an email in 3 years. We haven't touched base with them. There are warm people kind of raising their hands and saying I'm interested in your company. And I think there's an opportunity to reconnect with them, to keep them warm, to keep them in the funnel and keep them moving down to the very bottom. So, when I think about content opportunities, just moving up the funnel a little bit, not just posting a job ad or job description. Hey, we're hiring. Go. It's, hey, we have an amazing culture. Did you know we had a kickball league? Did you know we were a best place to work? And then thanks so much for opting into our talent community. This is something cool that's happening. We're having a DevOps meetup or we'll be at this conference. We'd love to meet you. That's sort of middle of the funnel. And then, thanks again for joining the talent community. You followed us on LinkedIn. You've been to the conference. Hey, there's a job that really fits what you're looking for. Go apply. I mean, that feels like a really nice funnel. So just a tip, and would love to hear in the comments if there's other suggestions, but I think there's so much opportunity to kind of look higher of the top of funnel tofu content in middle of the funnel, just to keep those candidates warm who've already raised their hands and expressed interest in our company, to keep them moving down into that final job description, job ad, apply now.
Yeah, I love that. I've been surprised, I have to say. I've had a number of clients who've reached out and started working with me because they're struggling to attract the talent they need. So one of the first steps I do with organizations is then to audit their touch points. So what are they doing externally to attract this talent? And it's quite surprising, but it so frequently happens that none of them have even just a half decent careers website. They might have some job listings, but there's literally no content about their organization. So I'm like, well, there's your first very big, obvious missed opportunity there, and gap in that. But I guess, as I said, I always think about auditing. Is it what you do with some of your clients around, I guess, auditing that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that idea of like, let's beef up the career site. Like if someone's interested enough to look at you, let's give them something meaty to really dig into. As an example of that, I have a client, and their career site looked like everybody else's career site. We have a great culture. We have great benefits, like nothing specific, but just we're great. And so I was like, well, what makes you great? Why are you different, special, better than everybody else? And that's where that audit comes in. So kind of the ABCs of content strategy, I think of is starts with an audit and analysis. Audit yourself. Hey, what's working? Like, what are we putting out there that is effective? And then what are we putting out there that's not effective at all? What are our pain points? Like, do we have tons and tons of applicants, but none of them qualify, or tons of applicants that apply and go through the interview process, but nobody takes our offer? Like, in which case, maybe the issue is at the bottom of the funnel. Maybe our salary is off, or our, that conversation takes too long. Where are we feeling pain? And that's just in conversation with our TA team. So knowing where you're at, that self audit of our pain points, our followers, our engagement, what's working, what's not, and then analyzing our competitors, like what is that blue ocean? So a lot of my clients are in the construction, engineering, architecture space. It is typically a very hard job. So these are industries that work long hours, on weekends, on holidays. We're building buildings, right? So that happens on Christmas Eve and on Saturdays. And so when I talked to one client that didn't have a solid careers page, I started interviewing their employees. And one thing I found was they actually track their hours. So I spoke with their director of engineering, and he said, yeah, we have a meeting every week and we project how many hours we're working, and we look backwards and we see how many hours the team worked. And if it's over 40, we have a conversation, because we really want to keep them at 40. We really care about work-life balance. And I was like, tell me more about that. That's not something I hear any other construction architecture firms say. And he goes, well, we really care about our people. We really care about their work-life balance. We feel like they should go home at the end of the day and be with their family. And I was like, no one else is saying that. I think that's going to be a core pillar of our content and of our EVP, because it's blue ocean. That is something that makes you different, better, special, unique from all of the other ones. And so when we redesigned their careers page, it was really more about, tell me a story about work-life balance, or tell me a story about how the company cared for you. And so we pulled out these testimonials that aligned with that content pillar. My boss called me on my birthday, and, we have a kickball league and no one's required to go, work on Saturdays. It was all stories like that kind of funneled up under this umbrella of, we really care about you as a person and we really care about work-life balance. So all that to say, like, auditing who you are, but also knowing what the competitors are, so that a candidate can say, yeah, I really care about that, or, well, I don't really care about that. I'm going to go, to this competitor, because otherwise we all start to look and sound the same. That's where that employer branding really comes in. So yeah, the audit analysis. And then I like to go into the brand strategy of like, who are we targeting? What are we ultimately trying to do? Are they funneling to our career site? Are they going to a job ad? Are they talking to a recruiter? Are they getting in our talent community? Like, what do we want them to do through this piece of content? And then ultimately activation of like, all right, we're going to put our content out there. It's going to be on LinkedIn, and we're going to use Canva, and we're going to have Janine write, and we're going to have Joanne edit, and, you know, kind of figuring out the process and the people in the activation is kind of what I see as like A, audit and analysis, B, brand strategy, and C, content activation.
I really think it's so important in the activation side. Sorry, Jay, just jumped in there. Because obviously anyone can have any great ideas. I think it's the challenge is actually putting those ideas into action. How do you implement, how do you operationalize some of those things? And that's where it is a lot more complex. And that's where people, I guess, struggle to be able to generate content at scale, is because it's, taking what is an idea through to repeatable actions for people. So I love that you work through that with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does take time. I mean, I'm not here to say like, here's 1,000 content prompts and you'll finish your years of content in 30 minutes. Like, it really does take time. But I'll say, if you figure out your strategy, that answers a lot of questions about who and how and when. I was at a lunch today with a group of social media managers, and one of them said like, well, should we be on TikTok? And I feel like we should. I don't know. I don't have the bandwidth. So I guess I think we just won't. So her frame of reference, her kind of thought process was like her capacity, you know, and I just started thinking like, what if your frame of reference, your framework was more, does it drive the business forward? Like, don't worry about capacity. Maybe somebody else could do it. Maybe an intern, whatever. But like, you know, you've got to look at it through a lens of strategy and will this help the business? Are our customers or clients or candidates on TikTok? And more than just, I've got some hours to develop. It's kind of looking at things through the content strategy lens really helps answer a lot of those harder questions.
Yeah, nice. You're speaking my language, Rachel. Yeah. I think I love the emphasis on okay, well, what's different if you have more of that content mindset of bringing the funnel into the picture, right? And thinking about those higher stages as well. Because, I mean, we did talk a little bit about this with Alex on the last session as well. Like somewhere in the vicinity of, think of it as less than 10%, could be 5%, could be 1% of people might be active in the job search of the talent you want to target. So if everybody's just creating, I suppose, a campaign or an execution just to go after those people, you're competing for a very small part of the potential of the market. And the same goes for marketing. It's like, we think of it the same way. It's like, well, 1% of people might be active in considering a solution, but what about the other 99%? So that funnel's incredibly important. And I was going to say as well, I think with that mindset, where I've seen some companies, even on the employer brand side, do this really well, is not just really bringing in, embracing kind of the content series side of things as well, not just a single piece, but a series of content under a common umbrella that has more longevity and continuity. Because as you know, right, it's like, it's important from an audience perspective to have some consistency and continuity, know what to expect and those kind of things to engage with. You know, we've got some customers that have done that really well, like on their career site, bringing a series of common structured videos around the same kind of focus on how to help candidates put their best foot forward in the job application process, like really adding value to them, making them more successful. So a couple of really good things there that you're definitely speaking my language.
That's cool. It makes me, in your example, Jay, think about like, what are those content pillars that you're always going to talk about, kind of your North Star? And I mean, in our language, that's your EVP. But, you know, I know a lot of companies maybe are smaller or newer on this journey and don't have an EVP. And it's kind of like, well, where do I start? And should I just start producing content? And I don't know that like developing a full-blown EVP is realistic for every single person. But I think what you're saying is like, that company thought it's really important to us to help job seekers in the journey. And so to me, that's almost like a content pillar of like helping or assistance or care It feels like that's probably important to that company. And therefore that's their lens of like, okay, what are we all about? We really care. We really care about our job seekers. We really care about our customers. Let's create a series of videos that align with that care pillar. Let's help them in the job search, so that sounds like a great example of a strategic move that also works to help with the candidate experience, right? Like candidate experience is so critical. So many of my friends have gone through the job search and just said, I got ghosted, or I was super excited about this firm. I had an interview, but like the people weren't really great, or the lobby smelled like cats, or whatever. It's disappointing. But I think considering the candidate experience throughout all of those touch points, throughout every single piece of content, and thinking about how do we care about them and how do we convert them and how do we keep them warm throughout that entire funnel is so important.
Hey, the lobby smells like cats. If James Ellis was here, he'd be saying that could be part of your employer brand, your EVP, like some crazy cat people. That's your people.
Some people may want to opt in to that culture, and
Exactly.
some people will opt out, like people who are allergic to cats. I'm going to opt out, but that may be a selling point for other people.
Cool. Okay. We might jump on to the next topic here, but yeah, just another call out for any comments or questions for us to, if you've got anything for Rachel, but I'll keep moving on to the next topic. So yeah, this topic just all about content strategy, Rachel. Just want to take the opportunity to kind of pick your brain on what we can learn about content strategy from your experience. And I think one thing we've learned, this may not be always true, but there definitely seems to be kind of two camps around when's the right time to do a content strategy. A lot of organizations, you've probably seen this as well, Brett. It's like, and it's probably the perfect way to do it, which is to have all of the messaging strategy sorted, do all the research, build out the messaging, the EVP, the employee branding pillars, and then directly transition that to, well, how are we going to strategize content around this? And then, okay, well, that can't always be the case. It's not always possible from a budget, resourcing, whatever the chaos may be. So then you've kind of got other groups or individuals that are like, okay, let's just do the content strategy first, try to make an impact on some really tactical goals around recruitment, and update that when and if we get to do that more formalized investment in messaging. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that debate, like really just around what's the right timing, and is there other signals outside of that entirely that suggest it's this, or how you identify the right time to go and invest in that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a realist. So, in a perfect world, it would be amazing to birth a company and develop all of our content pillars and develop our messaging and then roll it out. I think in reality, many of us come into organizations who have mixed messaging, or have leadership who is turned over, or the company is pivoting, or we have a new product line and we need to find a ton of new developers. And so we need to develop messaging. So it's not always a blank slate and a fresh sheet of paper when we come in which case, I think some content is better than nothing. I'm part of a group, and some people talk about like, we really want to make viral content. So our goal is just to get as many followers on Instagram as possible. We're going to do all these contests and we're just going to go. And what I think about when I hear that is like, how is that content tying back to the larger business goals? And so, I don't advocate just going out there and saying something. I think some content is better than nothing, but I think focusing on value add content is always going to be the North Star. We always want to add value. We always want to. My son came home with this sheet of paper yesterday. He's in first grade, and it was a picture of a pie. And it has 3 little sections, and you lift up the P and it's persuade. And the middle is I for inform, and the E is for entertain. And he's like, this is how you tell a story, Mom. You persuade, or you inform, or you entertain. And I was like, buddy, that is so right on. When we have content, we want to persuade, inform, or entertain. So thank you.
I will, right there.
Yeah, training, I know. Right? I'm like, here I am learning things from my first grader. But some content is better than nothing, because again, candidates are looking around for those little sticks and twigs. And if there's nothing there is nothing to draw them in. On the other hand, I really want everyone to develop value add content that can persuade, inform, or entertain, that is aligned and on brand. So anyway, I guess I'm trying to say, I think looking for value add content, whether you have an EVP or not, is the way to go.
Yeah, nice. I'll have a shot at paraphrasing that and say it's along the lines of like, well, is there a appetite, need, or opportunity from an audience perspective, and putting that to the forefront, rather than just what's happening internally. Where are you at? Is it? Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to simplify, but it's kind of like putting aside, well, what's the current state of the business, and putting audience first, and then, well, that could be the right signal if we see opportunities there or potential to add value, with the audience front of mind.
I think you paraphrase it well.
We've just got a bit of a delay on Rachel's side, I think. Brie, what's your kind of experience or take been on the kind of debate between timing or any other factors you see in timing for a content strategy?
Just like Rachel, in an ideal world, you have your EVP, because then you're quite clear about what are the things you want to be known for as an organization. And then you want to be just obviously quite single-minded about that and be creating content that is then the evidence that brings that to life in really credible and authentic ways. However, that's not always possible. And if you think about the time it may take to do your research and EVP definition and get to that point where you're actually ready to start creating content, let's face it, that can take a good 6 to 12 months. So what can you be doing right now? And I think then by thinking about when content can add value straight away. And so it's what is the right type of content? And I think thinking about developing a good content strategy, regardless of your EVP, that's going to help you be a bit more focused on making sure you're creating the right type of content that's going to help achieve those short-term goals.
Yeah, nice. And Rachel, like coming back to content strategy, content strategy 101, I guess in some ways it can be easy to kind of confuse like a content plan. These are the content we're going to create on these topics with the strategy itself. So like, what does a good, like, complete strategy look like, or what does it cover as a good 101 for everybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we were talking about kind of what do you do if you have nothing? And I'll give you the example of this engineering client that I had that was desperate for mechanical engineers, had very little presence, very little content. It was kind of like anniversary. In these conversations with their team, I just gleaned like this theme of work-life balance that's super important to them. And so just basically I'm looking at Gavin's question here, like, what are some quick wins you can do to implement to just get started on something on your content plan and from your content strategy? And one thing that they've done is just taken that theme and used it in their recruiter messaging. So in every outreach message, it's like, hey, we're on this award list. We're all about best places to work. We're all about work-life balance. If that's interesting to you, let us know. So not a full framework, not a full strategy, but at least there was this kind of core theme that came out that we could start using right away when reaching out to candidates, and then incorporated it into the interview guides. And again, kind of thinking about your content plan. Let's look at all of these touch points that little birds can pick up those little sticks. And I'll give you guys kind of a guide on that later, but looking at your career site is a huge one. Looking at your social is another. Looking at your employee advocacy and what your people are saying and what they're putting out there is another one, because those are however many people you have in your company, the number of marketers and recruiters you have as well. So all of those people are your best advocates for the company. So ensuring they have the right message as well. So I think your question, Jay, is like, what is the strategy versus what is the plan? I mean, I always like to just pause. What are we trying to do? Let's develop the strategy and understand who we are, what we want to do, and like, where is the white space, and then put it into action. And that's where the plan comes in. Let's empower our people. Let's include it in our interview guide. Let's put it on LinkedIn. Let's give this puppy wheels and let it ride.
I really like how you've simplified that. I think the reality is we've got a lot of talent acquisition specialists on the call. when we're talking content strategy, it's kind of like, what is that? So I think you really demystified it and quite simplified what that actually is. Do you include in that strategy any goals and or KPIs or ways to measure what success looks like?
So I think about success in terms of a partnership. I'm coming in from the outside and I can't determine what success looks like for you. So in our first conversation and in multiple conversations after, I'm asking like, what is success for you? Because it's different for every company. I have one client who is desperate for this one type of super, super, super specific engineer. Success to them looks like hiring one. I have another company that is more of a healthcare company, and they are intensely competitive with lots of other brands. They're trying to get their name out there. Success for them actually looks like their internal team leveraging LinkedIn. So their metric is to have their recruiters active on LinkedIn every week. So those are very, very different goals that I didn't push on them, but I'm asking like, where are your pain points and what does success look like to you? So I would say that's probably individual to every client, just based on their individual needs. But what do you think, Bree? I'm sure you talk to your clients about their goals and KPIs all the time too.
No, I love your answer because I'll often get a similar one around how do you measure what good looks like or the success or ROI of an employer brand strategy. And what are the key or most common metrics? And my response is the same. It will be different for every organization. And I think that's in truly having a strategy first, right? And actually understanding what are the challenges and problems we're trying to solve here rather than just doing something for the sake of it. So it's really understanding what do we need to be solving for? And then working out, well, what does that look like from a measurement perspective? How do we measure that? How do we know how we're tracking against that goal? And that will look different every time, right? Depending on what that goal is. And so that's where I kind of stop going, well, just open up another can of worms here. Often a goal to be an employer of choice isn't, to me, it's, what is that? It's just so vague. There's nothing measurable about that. There's nothing specific. Like, that's not a good goal. So I think it is. It's around really, really specific. Is it hiring this one certain type? Is it becoming known as maybe an employer of choice for that type of talent in that certain industry? And then there'd be some more specific indicators to show how you're tracking there. But yeah, I'd agree. It should be different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at the chat at Gavin's question about how do companies start keeping candidates warm rather than going out to market every single time they have a role, which I love. As a recruiter, it is, okay, we're going to start the search again. When really, I think there's a lot of opportunities to start on second or third base sometimes. As a recruiter, I would love to look back at silver medalists. So, okay, last time we had this job open, we interviewed all these people. This one was really, really close. We just found someone better and they took the offer. So let's go back to that number 2 person and maybe the number 3 person and just touch base and see if they're still interested. We don't need to start the whole search over. We don't have to post the job all over again. Let's start on second base and go contact those people who interviewed last time that were pretty good. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe the compensation was off. Maybe there was just someone a tiny bit more qualified. So looking back at silver medalists is great. And then I'm a fan of boomerangs as well. I mean, there are people who used to work at the organization and left because of childcare needs, compensation, growth opportunities, whatever, that know you and love you enough to have worked for you before and may be willing to come back. And so I think that's where like talent communities, talent pools, alumni groups, LinkedIn are really, really great, easy, low-hanging fruit to just start working that net. It's your network, in identifying people who may be interested, rather than starting at the very beginning. So hopefully that answers your question, Gavin.
That's it's such a critical and, once again, missed opportunity for most organizations. They've done the hard work in attracting the interest of a bunch of candidates, which could be, as you said, like really relevant. But then the job's closed and then the organization doesn't get in contact with them again. But that's like really hot. It's a warm, interested lead. How are we thinking about nurturing and then actually putting a strategy in place? So ensuring we've got the systems, obviously, to be able to do that effectively. But then building out that nurture strategy, and that's obviously that more of that middle kind of funnel. there, it's kind of what content can we be repurposing and reusing for this group of people who are already hot, that you're going to have much more impact in converting to a candidate again than those who are unaware of your organization. So I think that's such an opportunity to be thinking about, how do we keep warm? What is the frequency? What types of information do they need to know? And having a plan for that.
Yeah, I love that, your language of the nurture strategy, and it feels like it's so effective for a recruiter almost just to be designated over an alumni group or over the network, over the company alumni LinkedIn page. It's like, let's keep those relationships alive. And that's what universities do, right? They're like, come back for homecoming, and like, here's the newsletter, and we'd love for you to donate. They want to keep that community together for their own purposes, but also for the purpose of like, this is a group of people who have gone through this experience at the same time, at the same place. And we would love to build those relationships and keep those relationships together. So it's a very intentional strategy that frankly works.
Yeah. Well, it happens in consumer marketing. Like Jay obviously would know this more than us. In consumer world, like whether you get to the shopping cart and whether you purchase or not, you're still going to be hounded by that organization. They've got your details somehow, and they're going to keep you warm. They're going to keep in contact and make sure you then do go through a purchase. I don't know why we don't really apply that that well to the world of talent acquisition.
Yeah, I can imagine if the company was large enough and they had a large enough alumni of people, like you could put a whole, it's probably overkill, but you could put a whole strategy around the boomerang strategy of like continually engaging and showing them all the reasons why you probably want to come back at some point. Here's all the stories, all the good stuff that's happening. That'd be cool. Just to try to round out this topic as well, Rachel, I think that was a good call before around kind of, okay, some of the what could the early wins or the small wins be in the early stages. Like just pick one message, create content to get that one particular message. It doesn't have to be a complete set of employee branding pillars, but there's opportunity to get those messages that are a good fit and are compelling for the type of talent or the specific segments of talent you're having challenges in attracting, or you want to attract better. So that's a good call. I just want to round it out as well with like kind of just going one layer deeper on content strategy. I'd love to hear just what are you seeing or even working on perhaps, but just around kind of content mix. Like what are some of the forms of content that you're seeing out in the market right now that you think are really doing a great job of delivering that message in a way that candidates would love to engage with?
Yes. What I typically see is companies have one mode that they're most comfortable in, and it feels a little uncomfortable to go outside of that. So as a writer, personally, I'm like, I'm always going to write. And then like for me to make a video feels a little uncomfortable, but it gives people a more well-rounded sense of who I am or what my business offers. And so, I definitely see value in finding a mix of content. And I also think looking at your audience and what do they engage with? What locations are they going to engage? Going back to this conversation today, well, should we be on TikTok? I don't know. Well, are your customers or your clients or your candidates on TikTok? And if so, it could be worth investing in video content for TikTok if that is part of the larger business strategy and you're finding the right people there. But generally, I see so much value in like this mix of content. But as video has become more and more popular, I just feel like it breaks this fourth wall. Like, you know what I sound like, you know what I look like, you can see my mannerisms. I think there's so much engagement that can come from video that we can't get from still photos or from blogs or just from testimonials. Some of the most meaningful content pieces. There's one that like, I'll never forget. It's a story of a nurse during COVID, just kind of like walking down the halls and changing her shoes. And it was like, oh my God, like being a nurse is so hard. I see you, I hear it. I can, experience this with you. But this job is so powerful and so meaningful. I think video can just be so compelling. So, and again, this is your world, Jay. Are you kind of seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is the whole thing we live and breathe every day. But I mean, I think speaking to different people like yourself, like more broadly in the market, I think the really interesting examples are when people go, well, it's okay, what is the best form or method to capture this particular story, or how do we want to take it to market? And really interesting examples or stories is like when people do a side-by-side comparison of, okay, for example, job ads, do like post like a written job ad with a link to it versus a video in the feed where people can consume that piece of content. It's a bit more more engaging than just the preview of a link. And seeing significantly higher click-through rates or response rates to those kind of things. So I think that's when it gets really interesting, is when you're comparing side by side. And not to say it's like, like you're saying before, it's still about the mix, because one of the things we do in my team, but I think is also a really good opportunity in any content strategies, even if you are, say, leading with video like we do, that creates a lot of opportunities to create secondary pieces of content, which are written versions or graphical versions. And I think, it's when you've got like an audio or a video version to start with, you can then create other derivatives of that quite easily, and you get a 5-for-1 deal. You create one piece of video and you can do 5 more pieces of content off the back of that. So I think that's where it gets really interesting when you're thinking about the mix of content at the same time.
Totally. I love that you brought that up. I am such a fan of recycling in real life and with content too. But I mean, similarly, like if, you have a blog, you can take out a little clip and you can make it into a testimonial. I mean, I do video interviews all the time with employees. So we have the video, but I can create a testimonial, and then I can write a blog article, and then we have a clip for their career site, and then we can make a social post out of it. So I love that idea of like, let's squeeze the lemon for as much as it's worth. Let's take one piece of content and develop 5 out of it. And starting with video is such a efficient way to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's a necessity these days. Like, you're trying to do more with less budget, and to be able to do those things is very achievable. And less time, like same time, effort, and you're getting multiple pieces of content. And it really helps you stay more consistent as well. It's like derivatives will help you have more content to fill out the week or the calendar and things like that, than always having to think of something new. And I'm on a roll now. It also makes me think about, it's like, even if we're talking social, it's like, if we posted that particular topic at that time, you're like, oh, should we post it again or not? Or in a different format, people don't want to see it again. It's like, what's the chances of people seeing this, exactly those same people seeing it? Or did they definitely see it last time? It's good. I think it's better to not assume that everybody saw it 100%, because, it's pretty competitive to get a spot in the feed and get people's attention. So repetition is also valuable.
Absolutely.
I
want to jump in with the questions.
It's crushing.
We're running shorter on time. And it's something that's slightly off topic, but totally related. I know that you're really passionate about personal branding, Rachel, and I really admire people like yourself. I wish I had more time and was better at doing it, because I know the benefits of investing in your personal brand. But can you share a little bit about why you're so passionate about personal branding and how it relates to our world of TA and employer branding?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a fan of personal branding because I've seen the impact that it makes on my business, my relationships, and my opportunities. So I got on LinkedIn when I started working at the Container Store, just as a lurker, not as a poster, and used it for recruitment purposes. I mean, just reaching out to people, hey, would you be interested in working for us, blah, blah, blah. And then I just started sharing like my experience of what it felt like to come back from maternity leave in a company that really cared about kind of the whole person. So here's just my experience. I've always been a writer. And so sharing that experience, I found resonated with people. Other kind of new parents to the workforce came up and talked to me about it. And so, I just started interviewing other employees, like simple stuff like, what did you think about like the cafeteria? We have an on-site cafeteria, we're serving ice cream today, photos of that. So I just started kind of sharing employee stories just because I thought it was interesting and fun and funny. And then when I started my business, I posted on LinkedIn, I said, my name is Rachel. I just started this business. If anybody needs anything, let me know. And within 2 hours, I had a former colleague reach out and say, yes, we need someone to interview our people and create a blog highlighting our leaders and their stories. And I think you'd be great for it. So I was like, my first customer came because of LinkedIn. I mean, it was because of a previous relationship, but there was no other way we would have reconnected had it not been for LinkedIn and had it not been for me sharing my story and what was happening in my life too. And so since then, I've had, podcast opportunities and speaking opportunities. I've built relationships with people across the globe. But I'm really sharing my story. It's this merging of professional and personal that I think is the development of your personal brand. And I've just gotten so many great opportunities because of it. A lot of times I love to help people develop their personal brand because I want them to experience these opportunities that have come to me.
And just rolling on from that, Rachel, as well, can you talk through, because one of the topic, like almost every single time, like when we have these sessions and we get down to, okay, what are some of the best things you can do in employer branding if you don't have much budget or resource? Like second to content is the advocacy piece and finding employee advocates. So what's kind of your view on the overlap or the association between the personal branding side of things and then the advocacy side of things that's so important for employer branding?
Yeah, I think everyone you've had on your show has probably had a great personal brand. I think of Alex Herr and James Ellis. I mean, these people have really become thought leaders because they're sharing what's happening in their organizations or in the employer brand space, and therefore they have more visibility. And also now I think of GoDaddy when I think of Alex. So there are these associations in your mind. When I love Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx. When I think of Sarah, I think of Spanx and vice versa. And she's a great example of someone who has built an incredible brand and has this very strong personal brand that I think supports each other. And so I think if you have no budget, but you really want a strong employer brand, developing your personal brand to support that employer brand can help as well. And there are ways to do that. When I think about like this Venn diagram of like core culture content and personal content, there is overlap there, right? Like we work for organizations that probably have some similar values that we do. I worked with the National Breast Cancer Foundation here locally and rewrote their job ads, job descriptions, messaging. And again, it was like, we need 8 years of experience and someone with development experience. And I said, hold on, you guys have this mission to change the way women experience breast cancer. You're offering support during a very, very challenging time. Like, let's lead with the mission. And so we changed the messaging. But when I look at their employees, like they are incredible personal advocates, mostly because most of them have experienced or have someone in their family who has experienced breast cancer. And so personally, like they have a closet full of pink clothes. They are all about supporting this mission. And so we've just talked about, okay, how can we share this personal passion that you have that also aligns with this company brand online? And so as I dig into these stories, it's like, my mother experienced this. I've just always had a passion for this organization. And so when a job popped up, it aligned with my personal values and I decided to apply. Okay, well, great. Now let's tell that story. Like why are you passionate about it? This personal brand, I'm personally passionate about this mission. And then your professional, your employer brand, we're a great place to work because we help people in this very difficult time. Like, think about where those two content pillars intersect. Man, that is super content.
It is absolutely. But it's like, we know how important, I guess, this having a strong and personal brand is for, I think, talent attraction for an organization. It's all well and good for us employer branders to say, hey, we need our leaders to have strong personal brands and to be focused on building theirs out. But the reality is, in many cases, they're technical people. They're not writers. They're not marketers. So it's something that's not really natural for them, and they really don't know where to start, I found. So I think, and my experience, I've learned it's around how you can help equip those people with these skills, understanding the importance of them doing that and the reach and impact they can have, and then holding their hand through that process to help them build out their brand. So whether it be updating their LinkedIn profiles for them, whether it be working out, well, what are the topics of passion for them that they can have a voice on, and helping them write some content or articles, or feeding them some content that they can share in the networks. When you get that right, it's amazing how then these incredible leaders can have such an impact on the attraction of talent to the organization, but it's just so untapped.
You're so right. And, I think about the LinkedIn algorithm always prioritizing personal content over company content, right? If the same people in the company post the same thing at the same time, the personal content is going to exceed that. And I think people trust people, right? Not brands. And so, yes, hearing from the CEO of this company means a lot more to me than whatever marketing speak comes from the company corporate page. And so you're right. Their job is not to be a content creator. Their job is to run the business. And so our job as marketing, internal comms, employer brand is to hold their hand. Like you said, Bree, partner with them, show them the light, show them the way. Hey, I drafted this. Does this feel like you? Does this feel right? Do you mind if I post this? Is this okay? Hey, let's just touch up your profile. Let's tweak this messaging. Let's add this, hey, best places to work award. Let's make sure you have the brand image on your LinkedIn background photo. All of those little things can make a big difference. And I think that's where our value as employer brand champions come in to hold their hand and guide them through that process.
Yeah. And they appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good message what you're saying before as well, Rachel, which is the TA folks or the employer brand managers out there not necessarily kind of feeling like they need to be behind the front line of getting the message out to market, of it has to come through an employee who's in the role, those kind of things. All the TA kind of people I'm connected with, I love hearing from their perspective and them sharing the stories on behalf of the organization. I think it's a good message. It demonstrates their passion and their own advocacy for what a great place it is to work there, even if it's not firsthand from the person telling the story, or even if it's their story. There's a few good people out there that their brands are much more front of mind for me now, thinking less from a talent perspective because of what their folks have been able to do on social media. So it's a good message. We're pretty much coming up on time, so we might call the questions there and just go on to the home stretch. Rachel, so I hope you've got, if you remember, we've got this section at the end where we've got a question that's passed on from the past guest. So we've got a question here from Alex Herr for you that we're going to play on video and get your thoughts on. Hope you got your question ready for the next guest as well. So, but we'll go with the question from Alex first.
All right. So I think Bree had a good one there, but for me, it would be, what do you wish you knew about employer branding that you didn't know before you got into it?
Okay.
It's very, very open-ended.
All right. Look forward to hearing that one from Rachel next time. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'll have to thank him for that one. I think in employer brand, we influence one of the biggest decisions someone can make in their career. And I think there's great power in that, and there's great responsibility. I find so much meaning in the work that we do because I'm not selling a car. I'm not selling a phone. Like, I'm helping someone connect with an organization that can massively change their life. They're going to spend more hours at work than they do often with their families. And so for me in my role, knowing that I am working with clients who really care about their people, who really care about their work, and upholding that and shining a light on those companies and attracting more talent to it is incredibly impactful. So I don't know that I knew that when I got into it, but I find so much meaning in the work that we do.
So you wish you knew how many good feels there would be in the work itself. You might have started sooner.
Yes, all the feels. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice one. Okay, so we keen to get your question recording now of your question for the next guest, and we'll keep the chain going.
All right. All right. So I was thinking about this today. We have so much going on. We are doing so much. If we're in marketing, employer brand, internal comms, recruiting, we have tons and tons of tactics and strategies and ton on our plate every day. My question is, what is on your stop doing list? What is not important? What do you not need to worry about in our work and employer brand?
I love a stop list. Stop lists are the best.
I don't have an answer, but I am very curious to hear your in 2024.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to find out next time what's on the stop list. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end. So yeah, thanks again to our live audience and our co-host, resident employer brand expert Bree, and of course our lovely guest today, Rachel. Thanks for coming on. We actually have one more thing before we wrap up. You've given us a little bonus gift kind of item. Should I pump it up too much? I don't know.
Yeah.
Bonus. Yeah. For the audience, want to tell everybody what that is?
Yes, I wanted to give you guys a free bonus for coming today. I'm super excited to offer my content audit checklist. So what I find is a lot of times we don't know where to start. Like, oh, how are we doing? Where is our content? Where do we go? Where do we put it? How are we doing? So what I did is put together 50 different points on that employer brand audit. So I talked about the bird's nest. There are all of these sticks and twigs. I've laid all those out for you between your career site, your social media, your LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, so that you can just have this checklist and say, yep, we've got that on our career site. Yep, we've outlined our benefits. Yep, we've got job descriptions without bias. So just use this as a checklist. You can download it and go through and kind of see where you're already rocking and just where some other places need a little bit of love. So that is what I made for you guys today.
Beautiful. That's great. Okay. Well, if you'd like to be kept up to date with all of our live sessions, the highlights, as well as the recordings and everything, make sure you jump onto LinkedIn, follow the Video My Job page. That'll also give you a little prompt to subscribe to the Talking Talent newsletter. We'll include all of these links and everything else, as well as kind of upcoming sessions as well. But that's it for today. So we'll see everybody next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.